All right, welcome everybody. My name is Nick Dreesen. I am the president and founder of Families United Action Network, or FAWN. We have started a segment we call Meet the Candidates. As when you go through the election cycle, we this year have not been able to get to as many of their events, and they haven't been able to have as many events, and we haven't been able to sit down and have that cup coffee we'd like to. So we have started to invite candidates on to our Meet the Candidate segment and be able to ask them the same questions, just get their response. This is not an endorsement of any candidate, just a chance to, again, meet the candidate. So today we are joined by Craig Williams out of from Senate District 6. And Craig, I'm going to go ahead and let you introduce yourself, and then I'll ask you a few questions as we get going.
Well, certainly. Thank you very much, Nick, and thanks for the opportunity to talk to the Families United Action Network. My name is Craig Williams. I'm 56 years old and live in Manning, Iowa. Just for reference, Senate District 6 includes Buena Vista, Sac, Carroll, Audubon, and the eastern 40% of Crawford County. So it's a fairly sizable area in west central Iowa. So my wife and I have been living in Manning for 30 years. We've been married for 35. We've got 2 kids, 3 grandkids that are 2.5 years old and under, and a 4th one due the day before the general election coming up. So I'll be a winner one way or the other. Both of our parents have been married for over 60 years. I've been working since I was 12. I've got 30 plus years of business and agricultural and technology background. So I believe we can bring some good business sense to Des Moines on behalf of the 6th Senate District. And looking forward to talking with you today, Nick.
Well, that's wonderful, and congratulations on the upcoming child. That's got to be very exciting. Now, Craig, for those who would like to find out more about you or to support you, do you have a website, or what's the best way to contact you or to learn more about you?
Yeah, certainly. WilliamsForIowa.com, and all spelled out, WilliamsForIowa.com, and you can find me on Facebook at the same name, Williams for Iowa.
Okay. Now, you've had a little bit of time to look at the questions that we've given you. Again, they're the same that we're sending out to all of the candidates. Do you have any background or any backstory yourself that maybe relates to a custodial division, whether they were married or not, or a CPS involvement?
So I don't, honestly. Like I just mentioned here, my wife and I have been married for 35 years, and both of our parents married for over 60 years, and their parents married for over 60 years. So we come from a very long line of strong families, and our kids are both married with children of their own and good family background. So my experience, fortunately for me, I guess, has been extremely positive. So we have not gone through divorces. I've got friends, of course, that have gone through divorce, and friends that have had some nasty custody battles, which I try not to take sides in because that doesn't help anyone. But we're both pro-life, believe that kids are a gift from God. Don't understand why some people don't think that way. We do. I don't have a lot of hands-on experience with family law, but I'm looking forward to helping those who cannot speak for themselves. And when in doubt, I'm going to side for the kids.
Okay. Well, very excellent to hear that you have such strong family roots there. That's something that, again, not everybody is blessed to have. Would you agree that those strong family roots help to produce strong family branches that continue to have stronger family roots?
There is no question in my mind whatsoever. I know one of your questions further down entails, having 2 parents, and I think a strong family definitely adds to the child's life. Kids are much more stable mentally, physically, and emotionally to take on life. They're much more productive in society. And I'm not trying to say that single parents can't do the same thing, but whenever possible, both parents, I think, is in the best interest of a child.
I would agree very much, and thank you for that, Craig. Now, let's go ahead and I'll get started with some of these questions. Now, when you're dealing with family court, they like to use the best interest of the child standard. It's a standard that there really is no definition of, though. And so we were wondering if, to you, what is in the best interest of the child what is in the best interest of the family, and what, if any, differences might there be?
Yeah, it was a great question. It didn't stump me, but it was just a really good question. So I had to think about it a little bit here. And first, I'd say it includes a safe environment. The best interest of the child is for them to be in a safe environment. And then whenever possible, with both parents. If it's not possible, then as much time with both parents as possible. Remember studying in high school, the Maslow's needs hierarchy: food, shelter, clothing. And he skipped out on the one that children need most, and that's love and nurturing. So I think in the best interest of the children is to be with both parents when possible, and then if they do get separated, I think it's in their best interest to stay at least with their siblings wherever possible. And you also ask about the family's best interest, and I think it's always in the family's best interest to stay together to the extent possible. And sometimes that's not possible. I know that people are people, and sometimes they just can't get along, and it's better that they separate. But in that respect, I think it's in the family's best interest to share custody.
And I said I'm going to stick to the script, but I'm going to go impromptu here. I hope you don't mind. Where was it I was going to go with this? Well, if I can't get it, I'll come back to it, but I'll continue on down our list here. So, oh yes, I was going to be, you would agree families come in all shapes and sizes?
They sure do. They do. And I don't know that there's always a one size fits all solution to everything. I think that's what makes this whole family court thing so incredibly difficult is you do need some defined parameters, and yet every situation has a twist to it, a difference in the story. Is it two girls? Is it two boys? Is it one girl and one boy? Or is one 17 and one 3? All kinds of different things that happen in families. So it makes it very difficult to, I feel for judges that have to be in some of these situations as well. So.
Yeah, and hopefully as a legislator, we can make a clearer road to make some of the judges' decisions a little bit easier there too, while still allowing to cater to each individual family's needs, since they are all very unique. So when it comes to the judicial process and also to child protective services, those are kind of two separate departments, obviously, but would you be in favor of more accountability and more oversight, or do you think we're sitting pretty good right now? It kind of handles its disciplinary actions where needed itself.
Yeah, so I had to think about this question a little bit more too, because I could see the question coming from different angles. And I have very limited exposure here, but I'm aware of, and I think a lot of people are aware of, the Sabrina Ray case in Perry, which made me physically sick to think that anybody would ever treat a child like that. And honestly, DHS failed her, and that makes you wonder how many more Sabrina Rays have fallen through the cracks. So in that respect, yeah, I would support some increased judicial and DHS oversight. And I presume that when I said it, I wasn't sure exactly which direction you're coming from. Oversight of the judicial and DHS CPS system is one thing that you meant. So yeah, very good. Yeah.
So when dealing with those situations, obviously there are certain situations with parents that are removals need to happen at least for a time period. Are you in favor of exhausting all situations to find family placement and keep those siblings together? And would you, what are you more in favor of finding the root of the problem, whether it's drug treatment or counseling, and reunifying that family when possible?
Yeah, I mean that's where every one size can't fit all in every situation. So if I'm to err, I err on the side of the best interest of the child, and that would be to stay with the parents. So if you can find a root cause of a problem and help alleviate it, I think that's what we need to do. And sometimes you can't. And in those situations, then unfortunately, the parental rights may have to be ended. So, but in general, I'm a believer in parental rights, and that the children will be best off with the parents if possible. Hopefully, I answered that question.
Yeah, and I think you kind of actually just re-answered the definition of how you define best interest of the child and access to both parents, as you just said.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, so could you define, or let me see here, excuse me, please explain what you would do to protect parental rights and to maximize parenting time with both parents if elected?
Yeah, I'm not overly familiar with the laws that are pertaining here, and so I don't want to comment too much on what I might do or might not do to maximize it. But again, no matter what's done in the legislature, it's not going to be appropriate in every case. And if we err, which we will err, it should be on the side of both parents.
Okay. And obviously, we just had some explosive news here in Iowa yesterday from our auditor that there was 21 or $22 million that may have been misappropriated. Still a big question mark with all of that. But would you believe in more of an audit of the Department of Human Services to make sure we know where that money is going to? That I know some candidates want to scream more money, more workers, which is one way. But are we actually using the money appropriately now?
Yeah, so I don't know the answer to that for certain, but I think probably most things in government could stand an audit and some thorough review of whether money is being spent appropriately or not appropriately, and whether you need more or less. There's only so much money to go around. I think that the legislature in general owes it to taxpayers to use those funds wisely. The state has no money that they didn't take from somebody else, and so when you take that from somebody else, you really owe it to them to be judicious with the expenditures of it. So yeah, I wasn't sure again on what you meant by an audit here, if it was a financial audit or processes and practices audit. I'd be in favor of all three for the Iowa Department of Human Services.
Okay. Now, if I might, again, you were in Senate District 6, and that was that's an open seat, and that was formerly Senator Mark Sagabart. I bring that up because, if you don't mind, I'd like to just play 2 minutes of, we had an event up in the Denison area this last year, and he spoke at this event, gave some comments, and that 30-some page bill that you were talking about, he actually authored and sponsored that for us, and it was related to these very issues we were talking about right now. So
sure. Okay,
hopefully you can hear this and it gets started. Can you see the screen?
I can.
So I'm Senator Mark Sagabart. I live 8 miles the road down Highway 30 to the east from here. So Jason and I are not only do we sit together in the Senate, but we're neighbors as well. So the 8 years that I've been there, I've been on what the committee called Human Resources. What does that mean? That means the human resources is dollars for people. It's social dollars is what it really amounts to. So the departments that are under that committee, which I've been a ranking member of it for 4 years when we were in the minority, I was the chairman of that committee for the previous 2 years, and last year I was the co-chair, and I'm currently the co-chair of that committee. The departments under there starts with the Department of Human Services. Have you all heard of that one? That's a monster. Let me tell you, it's a monster. You know, the IRS, I always say, can take your house, but the DHS can literally walk in and take your kids away. Now, I'm a grandfather.
Okay, so I'll put the actual video up underneath in the comments section, but the part that I was trying to convey, it was already just expressed right there. He mentioned that who he was, that he's from the Denison area, which I personally have some family up in that area as well. And he goes on to talk about how he was the chair of the Human Resources Committee for a number of years and was going to co-chair here right before he stepped down on this last year for his final year in 2019. But he talks about people complaining about the IRS and how the IRS can come and take your house away, but without notice, CPS can come and take your kids away. And he goes on a little bit further to explain some of the federal dollars that follow around with this and how him and his wife took his grandkids, excuse me, up on a trip to South Dakota, and they were got actually pretty terrified for a moment because they had no documentation of, you know, we're not the Nazi Germany of everybody has to carry your papers. So they had no proof that they were their that they were the grandparents of these children, and they had the thought that they could lose them in an instant with no real reason at all, because DHS has that much power. So I know that, I don't know how much time you've taken to look at that 30 some page bill. It has taken a number of experts across the nation to help us write this bill. It took us about 4 or 5 years. There's another candidate by the name of Toya Johnson, who is the main author of this. It's the premise of this bill, and you know, the devil's in the details, but we'll just kind of go on the premise, and we can, you know, work on the details later on. But the premise of this is to get it away from the Department of Human Services umbrella, much like what happened with the child correction facilities back in the 80s. I believe it was Representative McKean who had drafted that legislation. And that way, the funds don't all get commingled with the general funds, and it allows for more oversight and for proper use of those funds, as well as for more money to be accessible for the actual services that we are supposed to be providing, which we currently seem to offer but don't necessarily fully provide. So again, the devil's in the details. I don't know how much you've looked at the details, if you but on the premise of separating that to be its own entity, how would you feel, supportive or opposed to an idea like that?
Yeah, so I did scan through the 37 pages. I didn't read the entire thing, so I haven't had a time to fully digest it. I do know Mark Segabart very well. I've known him for years, and he's a good man. And I'm sure that he wouldn't sponsor a bill that wasn't in the best interest of children, because that's the kind of person he is. So based on that, and before I would say that I would support or not support something, I'd really like to hear arguments for and against the bill. But on its initial run through, I think it has a lot of merit, and I would generally be supportive of it.
Okay. Now, obviously, we have lost Senator Segabart to being a champion in the Senate for this bill. So once elected, would you be open to setting up those meetings, both with the opposers and with us, to be able to, I guess the tougher question, I guess, is would you be willing to sponsor this bill if those meetings went appropriate, and would you agree to have those meetings?
I'll always agree to have meetings. I don't know which committees I'll get assigned to and whether or not I'll be able to do that, but I can certainly sponsor or co-sponsor bills as they come in. And anything that's in the best interest or favors children, I'm on board with. So pretty sure that we'll find common ground on this one.
Okay. And you've alluded to the answers on a couple of the next ones here, but there was what's been called Senate File 571 for the last couple of years. I'm assuming it'll get renumbered this next year here. That is our quote shared parenting bill. Just because a relationship doesn't work out does not mean that a child should be deprived one parent or the other, unless there are grounds, which of course neglect, abuse, distance. There are grounds when sometimes they don't even have the desire. But when we have the desire, this one was a little bit easier to read, and it seems like you've already looked at that one. Are you in support of SF 571 and a child's right to have access to both parents?
Yeah, that one was a lot easier to read. That was about 7 pages. So I did read through that one quite a bit, and a lot more digestible. So as I read it and understand it, yeah, I would be very much in support of it. Again, I'd sure like to hear arguments on both sides. But in general, I'd support shared custody, and particularly in the absence of sound evidence that it's not in the best interest of the child, which I believe that's exactly what that says. It's rebuttable that the first thing that the judge has to do is give shared custody unless there's absolute evidence to the contrary. So that makes sense to me.
Yeah, and somebody can go ahead and have the rebut of, well, I don't like the shoes they wear, but we would hope that an ethical attorney would instantly stop them. But if they still proceeded, the judge should hopefully see right through whatever those frivolous arguments might be, and those core root arguments that we would easily be able to prove and maximize time with children by doing that. So,
right. I thought both of those bills had some mention of mediation as well, and without regard to a court judgment, which I'm always in favor of mediation, depending on, of course, on who the mediator is.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I would agree too when you go to court, nobody wins, especially not the children. But if you can open up that dialogue, and whether professional mediator or clergy or whoever, a good friend, get the conversation going, the people are able to find a lot more common ground, which is going to be better, not just short term, but long term for those children as well. So that even if one of the branches on your family root system has been severed, you can still get the nutrients you need to survive from all root systems.
Right. Right.
Okay, so next one here, and we're getting closer to the end, I believe. Do you believe that taking the driver's license or professional license for being behind on child support helps get child support paid faster and helps the community as a whole? Why or why not?
That was a really interesting question, but it seems to me that if the parent relies on driving to earn the money to pay the support, I'm not sure how taking their license away is going to help them pay it. I suppose some people will still drive even without a license, but I don't know. I just can't immediately see how pulling their driver's license is going to result in a more prompt payment, but maybe it will.
Yeah, I definitely understand, setting up deterrence and to try and, and more encouragement, I think would be better rather than deterrence, is to maybe set up some encouragement, whether it be to employers for tax credits or whatever. But never mind, this isn't about me. This is about your opinions here. But I would say that our organization is in line with that it's kind of hard to make the payments when you take away the ability to work, and then you get farther behind and they could potentially throw you in jail, even though we don't say that debtor's prison is unconstitutional. So it seems there's got to be better ways to figure this out.
Well, I was an employer for quite a while, and I had a number of situations where, like the court sent me a letter and said I had to garnish a person's wages for child support or alimony or whatever. And we did it, and nobody likes that, particularly not the employer, because we end up getting involved in things that we really just don't want to have to deal with. But that's one way to do it. I'm not quite sure why that wouldn't be better than pulling their driver's license, unless maybe they're self-employed and you can't garnish their wages in that case.
And it seems like throughout this conversation, you've had more experience than you alluded to at the beginning. It's been more of the outside the window rather than inside the house experience. But I'm very glad to see anybody willing to step up, face these issues right now. Anybody brave enough to run for office, especially at a time where the world is at right now. So our last real question of any real substance here is, what importance do you feel that a stable family environment has on affecting other facets of society, such as the economy, the environment, foreign policy, etc.?
Yeah, so study after study after study shows that children raised by both parents are happier and more productive, more emotionally stable. They'll spend fewer of them will spend time in prison. More of them will have financially productive lives and be contributors to society. Again, like I said before, that doesn't mean a single parent can't do a good job raising a kid, or that two parents always do it right or do what's in the best interest of their children. But in general, a stable family environment has a very positive impact on the economy and foreign policy. Part of your question also asked about the environment, and I'm not quite sure how the environment comes into play here. I presume you meant the actual the world ecology environment, but
yeah, that could kind of go a number of different ways, and it could be also just to the psychological aspects of it, of how they're going to treat not only the others around them, but the world as a whole, as well as how they socially adapt and are they a productive member? Are they more likely to end up on drugs or in jail? And the stats show currently that those who are separated, the more you limit one parent's access, the more likely we are to get the stats that we don't want of jail and suicide, etc. Whereas maximizing that time, even in a split household, those are very comparable numbers to a nuclear family where they have those strong family roots that we discussed at the beginning that allowed them much more opportunity to succeed in the long term.
Right. And everybody comes up with that one example of how this doesn't apply. And Bill Gates is a billionaire and he never went to college. Okay. But in general, people who go to college make more money than people who don't. In general, there's always that one case where it doesn't apply. But I think in general, children with two parents are much better off than not.
Okay. Now, related to your campaign, again, we said it at the beginning, but if you could again let us know the easiest way to get a hold of you there with your website, and also just to let us know, obviously, you're asking for people's vote for Senate District 6. We also, again, this is not an endorsement. We are also interviewing his opponent here in a day or two, not endorsing him either. We're just giving you their answers to the questions. But for those who would like to help your campaign, that want to get involved, would like to know more information, what else do you need besides their vote most? Are you needing more funds, volunteers, exposure? What is it that people could do to help you most? And again, please say your website again of how people can reach out to you.
Right. It's williamsforiowa.com, and there is a donate button on there with PayPal donations. And funds are very much appreciated. My opponent has raised an incredible amount of money from 39 different states, which I find quite amazing as well. So in this day of COVID environments, going out and knocking on doors isn't very, I wouldn't say it's not socially acceptable, but a lot of people don't want somebody pounding on their door. They don't know who you are and whether or not you have COVID, and you're there to talk to them about politics. So we're trying to avoid that. We are hanging things on people's doors, and we are sending a lot of postcards. But a lot of our campaign is being done electronically through Facebook and our website, email, letters to the editor, the newspaper ads, radio ads, et cetera. And all that costs money. Unfortunately, none of that's free. So if you would consider a contribution to the campaign, it would be greatly appreciated. And
the website again?
williamsforiowa.com. And if you're in SD6, I would greatly appreciate your vote. Thank you.
Okay, so that's williamsforiowa.com if you are in Senate District 6 or just want to be able to support based upon comments you've heard tonight or anything else. We give no endorsements. We will be interviewing his opponent in the next couple of days. We'll get that shared with you. For those who would like to know more about our organization, please go to www.familiesunite.org. You also will be able to find, you currently have our 2020 legislative recommendations up there, and you can click on any one of these on our drop down bars, or you can click on the main page there to see more what legislation we are trying to push, what changes we are trying to fix, and we will be updating that in the next couple months for our 2021 session. But there are also ways that you can get involved, and also how you can help us, donate us, write content for us, share your personal story, sponsor events as well. So again, that's familiesunite.org. And Craig, one more time, your website again was craigwilliamsforiowa.com. Was that correct?
Just williamsforiowa.com.
williamsforiowa.com. Okay. Again, I thank you so much for being on here with us and taking the time out of your busy schedule. Do you have any final comments, anything else you'd like to say on this topic or any other topic before we let you go?
Well, I'll just say that I'm looking forward to serving the people in SD6. We've been very fortunate, love living here. This is a great place to raise kids. It's why we moved here from Illinois, was to raise our children in a better environment than Rockford, Illinois. So we found it here in Manning, and we appreciate what we've been able to do here with our children, and would really like to help the people of this district, actually the entire state of Iowa, on having a safe place to raise good families. Appreciate the Families United Action Network, Nick, for taking the time to talk with me tonight and giving me this opportunity to speak with you folks as well.
Okay, so that's williamsforiowa.com, Iowa Senate District 6. And again, you can find out more about us at familiesunite.org. So thank you, everybody. Most of all, thank you, Craig, again, for taking time out of your schedule. We appreciate you. We appreciate you all. We love you. And remember, go vote. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.